Published in 1950, The Authoritarian Personality by Theodor W. Adorno and his collaborators, Els Frankel Brunswick, Daniel Levinson, and Nevitt Sanford, stands as one of the most influential studies in social psychology and critical theory. Commissioned by the American Jewish Committee, the book was a response to the rise of fascism, anti-Semitism, and authoritarian regimes during the first half of the 20th century. It sought to understand the psychological and social factors that contribute to authoritarianism and prejudice, particularly in the aftermath of World War II and the Holocaust. Adorno and his colleagues aimed to identify personality traits that predispose individuals to authoritarian tendencies and to explore the societal conditions that foster such personalities. At its core, the study blends psychoanalysis, sociology, and empirical research, attempting to bridge individual psychology with broader social and political phenomena. The research is not only a landmark in political psychology, but also a foundational text in critical theory, building on the traditions of the Frankfurt School. Theoretical foundations. Adorno and his team were heavily influenced by both Freudian psychoanalysis and Marxist social theory. They believed that the roots of authoritarian behavior could be traced to early childhood experiences, particularly the dynamics of family life. They proposed that individuals raised in overly strict, punitive, and hierarchical families are more likely to develop authoritarian personality traits. These traits, they argued, make individuals susceptible to ideologies that promise order, security, and a sense of belonging, often at the expense of marginalized groups. The researchers distinguish between two types of authority: rational authority, which is based on competence and mutual respect, and irrational authority, which relies on coercion and submission. The authoritarian personality is characterized by an irrational respect for authority figures and a simultaneous contempt for those perceived as weaker or inferior. At the heart of the study is the F-scale, fascism scale, a psychometric tool developed to measure authoritarian traits. The F-scale assessed dimensions such as conventionalism, submission to authority, aggression toward outgroups, superstition, anti-intellectualism, and an obsession with strength and power. Key characteristics of the authoritarian personality. The book identifies several core characteristics of the authoritarian personality. 1. Conventionalism, a rigid adherence to conventional middle-class values and an emphasis on traditional norms and behaviors. 2. Authoritarian submission, an uncritical submission to established authorities and leaders. 3. Authoritarian aggression, a tendency to be hostile toward individuals or groups considered unconventional, deviant, or weak. 4. Anti-introception, a rejection of introspection, imagination, and self-examination. 5. Superstition and stereotypy, belief in mystical determinants of fate and rigid, simplistic thinking patterns. 6. Power and toughness, an admiration for power, strength, and physical toughness, often accompanied by disdain for weakness or vulnerability. 7. Destructiveness and cynicism, a generalized hostility toward humanity, expressed through aggressive or cynical attitudes. 8. Projectivity, a tendency to project one's unconscious impulses onto others, often accusing others of immorality or wrongdoing. 9. Sexual obsession, an exaggerated concern with sexual behavior, purity, and moral regulation. Adorno and his team argued that these traits form a constellation, with underlying unconscious mechanisms driving them. A key insight was that authoritarian personalities are not simply shaped by ideology, but are deeply rooted in psychological structures formed during childhood. Methodology and research design. The study combined qualitative and quantitative methods, including in-depth interviews, projective tests, and statistical analysis of survey data. The F-scale questionnaire became a central tool in identifying individuals with authoritarian tendencies. Participants were asked to respond to statements designed to elicit their views on authority, conformity, aggression, and outgroup relations. The research was groundbreaking in its attempt to empirically link personality traits with political and social attitudes. However, it was not without its methodological limitations. Critics have pointed out potential biases in the F-scale, such as leading questions and a failure to account for cultural and contextual differences in attitudes toward authority. Social context and historical relevance. Adorno and his collaborators wrote, "The authoritarian personality, at a time when the world was grappling with the aftermath of fascism and the horrors of the Holocaust. The study reflects the anxieties of its time and seeks to explain how ordinary individuals could become complicit in systems of oppression and violence. The book suggests that authoritarian personalities are not confined to a particular political ideology. They can manifest in both right-wing and left-wing authoritarian movements. However, Adorno's analysis predominantly focused on right-wing authoritarianism given its historical context. The study also highlighted the role of propaganda, group dynamics, and societal structures in reinforcing authoritarian attitudes. Mass media, political rhetoric, and social institutions were shown to play a crucial role in shaping and perpetuating authoritarian worldviews. Critiques and legacy. While The Authoritarian Personality remains a landmark text, it has faced significant criticism over the decades. Some psychologists have argued that the study overly pathologized conservative political beliefs, conflating them with authoritarianism. Others have pointed out that the F-scale lacks cultural neutrality and that authoritarian traits might manifest differently in non-Western contexts. Another major critique is the study's reliance on psychoanalytic theory, which has fallen out of favor in contemporary psychology. Despite these criticisms, the central thesis that authoritarian personalities are shaped by a combination of psychological, familial, and societal factors remains widely accepted. The book also paved the way for subsequent research into prejudice, social dominance, and the psychology of extremism. Concepts from the study have been integrated into modern frameworks such as right-wing authoritarianism, RWA, and social dominance orientation, SDO, which continue to inform research in political psychology. Contemporary relevance. In the 21st century, the authoritarian personality remains strikingly relevant. The resurgence of authoritarian political movements, populism, and extremist ideologies has renewed interest in Adorno's work. Contemporary studies continue to explore how social media, economic uncertainty, and cultural anxieties contribute to authoritarian attitudes. The psychological mechanisms described by Adorno and his team, fear of uncertainty, projection of insecurities onto outgroups, and reliance on strongman leaders, are still observable in today's political landscape. Issues such as xenophobia, nationalism, and conspiracy theories can often be traced back to the personality dynamics described in the book. The Authoritarian Personality by Theodor W. Adorno and his collaborators remains a foundational text in the fields of social psychology, political science, and critical theory. Its attempt to link personality traits with political ideologies was both ambitious and groundbreaking. Despite methodological critiques, the book's central insights continue to offer valuable tools for understanding the psychological roots of authoritarianism and prejudice. In an era marked by rising authoritarianism and social division, Adorno's work serves as a reminder of the need to address not only political and economic systems, but also the deep-seated psychological structures that enable them. By studying the authoritarian personality, we gain not only insight into the past, but also a clearer vision of the challenges that lie ahead in safeguarding democratic values and human rights.